I want to introduce you to some concepts that might make you understand music better, make you be able to come up with a framework that allows you to be more successful in your music listening and appreciation and also your music playing. Who is this video for? This is really for anyone, but I think you're going to benefit the most from this if you already have at least a little inkling on how music works. What do I mean by that? I'm talking, you kind of understand basic ideas like you understand what a one chord is. You understand, scales and things of that nature. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. And where I want to start is kind of the grand theory of music, if you will. Here's the truth. There's many different ways that people think about and contextualize music, but I really want to talk about two potential ideas that are going to really allow you, again, to understand music better, and that's going to lead to better playing and also better appreciation. Let's start with this first one, which is a working definition of what music is. I'm picking my words carefully here. I'm saying a working definition of music. Here's the truth. Music is complicated, and ultimately, I'm not really sure that there is a satisfying definition of music, period, full stop. But a working definition, meaning something that we can kind of just put a pin in and go, yeah, this is good enough for now, and then use that as a framework to proceed, that is something that does exist. And I will give you my favorite one, which is basically intelligently created patterns in sound. So let's unpack that a little bit. What do I mean by intelligent? I mean that there has to be some thought behind it, some intent behind the patterns. And then created, meaning that they didn't, again, come from randomness. They were decided to be there. It kind of implies this intent as well. And then patterns. Patterns are basically just anything that's repetitive, anything recurring, anything that has a structure to it. I've got the rainbow pattern, right? That is a pattern of colors that we know the direction of them and we go from there. That is really, and in sound, that kind of defines it as music. I mean, you could take this definition to art in general, and then you might talk about colors, other things, but we're concerned about music. That's why the sound piece is there. What does this allow you to do from an understanding music? Well, it actually allows you to be so much more sensitive to other people's music and creation. How is that the case? Well, you're allowed then to appreciate music that you don't necessarily intuitively like. And how can you do that? Well, if you can put yourself in that person's shoes who made that music, you can listen for those intelligently created patterns, and then you can kind of develop a sympathy for what they're really going for and understanding it. How does this also help you in playing music? Well, you can assume things now. Why can you assume things? Because you know that a human, somebody intelligent, thought up patterns, and then because that assumption is there, that there are patterns there, even the most complicated, crazy sounding music, you can find what the repetition is there, what the chunk is that it's based on, and then use that to learn the music. So that's idea number one, and that is you need a working definition of music. And once you have that philosophical undergirding, you can use that to really make some statements that allow you to move forward. Here's the second thing I want to talk about today, and if you like videos like this, go ahead and like and comment because I would love making more videos about how to understand music better because I think about this all the time. And the second theory I want to throw out is this idea that music is really all it is a hero's journey. And it's very similar to literature. Now, what does that mean? It's just that we're telling a story. And what story are we telling? Well, it's almost always the same. It is about someone starting from a place of humiliation, a place of lesser, a place of something small, but generally at peace, and then conflict happening, and then them being elevated through that experience. And so you can have, the classic story is the idea that there's somebody and something bad happens. They take away their girlfriend, someone shoots their dog, John Wick, whatever. Something bad happens. That starts action happening. And then they have to go through a process of self-discovery and development to then be able to win the day, beat the bad guy, and then we have a resolution. That is fundamentally how music works. On a really small scale, you can think of a 5 chord going to a 1 chord. That gives us this feeling of conflict and resolution. But then, as we start to pull back, what we start to realize is most songs are organized in a structure where we have a movement, and in that movement you have resolution, conflict, resolution. But then in the piece itself, you have sections that move from a place of calm and resolution to a place of conflict and back to resolution. Sonata form is probably one of the greatest examples of this. We have a development which sets up ideas and characters. They become in conflict with each other. We end in a different key than we started. Then we have a development section that explores those ideas more and creates more conflict and more tension. And then we finally have a recapitulation which resolves the conflict between the themes and resolves us back to the original key. Even more modern structures, though, tend to do the same thing. Pop music kind of does this in a odd way. And the way that it does it is we tend to have tension between the lyrics and the actual texture of the music. We sometimes have tension in the chord progression, being the fact that it doesn't actually completely resolve in the cycle, but it's always there. This underlying logic of a journey going from a place of calm to a place of conflict and then resolution is always there. Now, how does this help? It's probably pretty obvious how this helps with appreciating music, but how does this help with playing music? Well, it actually lets you know how to shape things. And again, it's about that expectation. It's that assumption piece. If you have good assumptions and good expectations, it can help lead you through and make really great decisions on what to prioritize, how to practice, and so on and so forth. If this was super obvious, go ahead and throw that down in the comments. If this is the first time you've heard this, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've heard this before, but maybe I said something that was a little more interesting for you, go ahead and throw that in the comments too. I'm Robert Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. Follow, like, comment. It all really helps. And until next time, you have a great day, great practice.